So, Brian, you not only write and direct, but you also act. How
Yes.
does being an actor inform your dialogue, or being a writer inform you being an actor?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. Yeah, basically, when I write a script, I think of it kind of like the same way I see myself like in post production. As an actor, I just see myself in the third person, and again, like not in an egocentric way, but as someone who has the job to deliver uh, the lines. Appropriately with enough passion, enough reality in what I'm doing. So, how does being an actor impact the writing, and how does the writing impact being an actor? I mean, it's not really much different for me as for when I'm writing a character specifically for someone else. So there's not a whole lot difference in terms of that. It's just that maybe when I get closer to shooting, I may change a line or two because I know I might say it differently. Whereas in my head, I might have thought, well, this is going to work great. I'll be able to say it just fine. And then, maybe we start shooting the scene, and I might scratch that line last minute because it might not flow naturally with everything. But I think I'm more apt to actually do that with another actor because I may write the script specifically for this person. This person may not be playing the role because you see, I mean, people have other films that they're working on. People drop out, so when you have someone else come in, and as you're doing, reading, or even when you're right, against shooting the scene, you're like, well, that's not going to flow naturally for their personality, so you may have to chop that out. But I guess just being the actor and being the writer, it doesn't change anything that much for me because I write it just the same as I do for other characters. It's all about the creation of the characters in my head, and then just saying what needs to be said, and if things need to be ironed out last minute, that's when I do it. So.
Well, does being an actor and knowing that process of how you have to deliver these lines, does that help you become a better writer?
Absolutely, yeah. Because we're talking about making things more concise, and I think I do that because I think really about how I'm going to deliver the line. Again, going back to my film Deceit, there's a lot of stuff that was verbose in it, and it's just like, oh, I learned my lesson big time that I can't, spit out this huge long paragraph and then expect it to flow and be interesting because you start looking at people don't talk certain ways. They don't always use correct grammar. So that's a big thing when you're writing dialogue that I really like to talk about when I, talk with other writers or other screenwriters, whether you're writing a story or a film. The dialogue has to be realistic. And it has to be realistic to a point where you're still telling the story through film or through, prose. And the thing is, you got to take out some of the reality, though, too. If you think about how people really talk, you'll get ums and ahs and all this stuff. And, you really might want to use like one if you really
Right.
think how someone's talking. I literally sat next to a friend of mine as he was texting someone, and he was doing a voice text, and he was laughing about how many ums were in his voice text. You're not going to do that in your dialogue, especially if you're writing a story. It's that's maybe a little too realistic, and sometimes things that are too realistic are boring too. But you don't want to make things you don't want to make things just very bland, and again it comes back to like using precise grammar. No one talks like
Right.
that.
Right.
No, like that.
So you want to bring realism to it, but you want to dramatize that realism.
Absolutely, because what we're looking at is people, a lot of people like reality TV. I specifically don't. So a lot of that stuff is boring to me because even though it's still set up, it's not reality TV. I don't care about what they're really doing. I want things to be a little bit more, um, the reality suspended. You know, I want to suspend reality somewhat. You know, I did, thinking about it, years ago. I did like a redneck sitcom. You know, and what I did was I wasn't blacking out everyone's teeth. I wasn't doing all. I kind of did what I call, Hollywoodizing them. You know, I was making them. I was suspending some reality, but at the same time making things realistic. So there's that blend of that where you got to make things. It's a movie, you know. You don't want people to sit there and say, oh well, I believe Superman with the X-ray vision and the flying and all that, but then, well, that's not realistic what he just did. Well, he's Superman, you know. He has X-ray vision. He can run through walls or whatever. So, I mean, people have to remember that it's still a movie, and when you put too much of the mundane reality, I should say, then that can get boring. Unless you really like reality TV, I don't know. So
yeah, well put. I mean, I'm not a fan of reality TV so much either. Like every now and then, if something's on, they'll become a guilty pleasure or something for like a little while. But I'm not gonna watch it every day. It's one of those things where the way they structure it, and coming from a production background, I know it's fake. I know so much of that is built in the edit, but it's really the human stuff that draws me in. The human drama. These people are fighting with these people because she stole her toothbrush, and they're living in the same room.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that little stuff that just kind of draws you in. It's funny, and I think too, like you said, from a production background, we all know it's fake. Like I think it was The Hills or one of those shows where one of the roads didn't even exist, and there's so much stuff that's. But think about it, that they probably. If you even look at their reality and our reality, again, they're probably not adhering to what I'm saying when, when naturally there's just stuff that we do that we don't want to see. I'm sure the editors are obviously editing that out too.
Right.
We know they are.
Right.
So there's so much of reality that I feel as a viewer we just don't want to see, and so you're not going to write that. You're not going to write all the that someone's saying, or just basic stuff. You don't need to see every single thing someone's doing, You're not going to film someone getting up, brushing their hair, brushing their teeth, doing this, doing that. You might have cut shots of something if you feel like something's important. Maybe they're hung over and you might want to get shots of that for that reason because you want to show that they're a mess and they're stumbling and maybe they fall. But normally you don't want to see a lot of the mundane things. So there's always this suspension of reality that happens. For
me, it comes down to when making those decisions, does this add to the story?
Yes. Right.
Does brushing your teeth add to the story?
Right.
If it doesn't, I think we can assume your character has good hygiene. If his teeth aren't falling out, I think we can take that for granted. I think we can take it for granted that a lot of TV and film characters eat and go to the bathroom, even though we never see it happen.
Well, unless you're John Travolta, then we got to see it,
But that was important that he went to the bathroom because something happened there.
Right.
If you ever see somebody go to the bathroom, there's probably something important about that happen.
And that's pretty true because you think Jurassic Park, you think
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's like rampant. So it's just kind of like that's the scene where something pretty bad. You're probably not going to make it out alive, All
right. Drive. Probably, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, on the converse to that, being a writer, knowing the story, even if you haven't written it, knowing story structure and knowing the purpose of a scene, how does that help you as an actor?
Well, it gives you your motivation. You got to know what you're after. You don't know what you're after, you're kind of fumbling through your lines, I feel, or even if you're doing a great delivery, something just isn't right. So you really got to know what the character's after. That's the huge thing. So what's your big motivation? What do they want? And I know it's cliche to always be like, well, what's my motivation here? But that's the big thing. And I've seen it in my acting. I've seen it with a script a long time ago, you know, there's this simple line. I was able to deliver all the hard lines, and there was a simple line where, you know, I was just asking about this other character, and because I didn't know the motivation, there was no reality in what I was saying.
Okay.
Once I thought about, do I like this person? What's my connection to them? What's my history to them? And I know it's a lot to think about when you're just delivering a line or two, but that makes a difference, because you know your motivation is like, maybe I don't want this person to be here. So when you say their name, you're not saying it in a happy way. There's no smile on your face. You're like, oh, is it this person? And you know, and that's kind of you know, the meat and potatoes behind everything you say. You know, if you think about Meisner and I come from his philosophy of thought, it's just like the words are kind of like the boat on the river, and the river is the emotion. The emotion really comes from, you know, doing your homework of, how do I feel about this character? How do I feel about this situation? You know, if you get a gift, how do you feel about it? You know, if you're getting it from the love of your life, you might be excited. If you're if you're getting it from a mobster, you might not be too happy about the gift, because you don't know if that gift is getting shot in the back of the head. So
right.
You're going to have two different emotions. You're going to have excitement, or you're going to be sweating bullets. And you got to be able to deliver that on the screen.
So do you feel you have maybe a better, maybe not immediate, but a better grip on the subtext?
Yes.
Say if you're reading a script you haven't written before, just from that writer's background.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because it's your story. You know the history, or whatever, you know, the made-up history is of those characters. And when you're reading someone else's, I mean, it is more exciting because you have to delve into the mystery of what they're really getting at as a writer, as a screenwriter, or, you know, an author, playwright, I should say. So when you're studying for a play, or you're studying your lines for a movie, you don't always know everything. So you may misinterpret things. So when you go back, you may think you have this line correct, and you have it down, you did all this preparation, and maybe that the character isn't angry. You know, maybe they were remorseful, and that's going to change everything. And the director's going to let you know, because the director should know the script in and out. They should know the story, even if they didn't write it, and you're, you know, doing whatever it is, Shakespeare to, you know, a Streetcar Named Desire, all that stuff, you know, whatever you're doing, it's just, you know, the director's going to know everything in and out, and they're going to let you know. And it's kind of interesting, because I did a film a long time ago called If I Sang At a Tune, and even though I was the writer on that, I had someone else direct it, and they would interpret the script differently, and they would say how I'm going to go in and deliver those lines. So they might have had a different concept of what my character's getting at than even me as a writer. And that's the beauty of doing a film, is everyone has a different concept of it, and the director is right. So as an actor, you have to put your trust in the director and listen to what they're saying. And I did a lot of that, you know, changing things around to really make it, you know, make it fit.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, this has been enlightening. Thank you so much for going indie depth with us.
Thank you, Andrew.
Where can we see your previous work?
I do have some stuff on YouTube. I'll be putting a few older works back up. But I do have my film To See is an extra. Since it's a short, it's an extra on the film I Heart You, which stars Rain Brown and Billy Garbarina. So if you pick up that copy of that DVD, you'll actually see it on the extras. So
Ooh, awesome.
Do that. And a couple of the other ones, I'll have some links up. I have Deceit on the internet as well. There's one I directed called The Elephant. It was written by Laura Beck. That is up there. if I sang at a tune, I should have a link for that too. So some of that stuff can be viewed on my YouTube channel, and I'll get you the links to those.
Perfect. And they will be in the description. Don't forget to subscribe right here. Like the video. Support us. Help us out. I'm Andrew Froning. Thank you so much for going indie depth.